Hi there, everyone. How are you doing? I'm Matt, and today I'm going to be talking about Microsoft Loop, which is an awesome new feature in M365, which is going to help you collaborate more effectively, be more productive, and ultimately get more done in less time through your day by collaborating effectively with your team. So, without further ado, I am going to make myself a whole lot smaller, make the screen share a whole lot bigger, and we will dive into what Microsoft Loop is and how you can configure it in your organization. And we're back. I'm a whole lot smaller, the screen share is a whole lot larger, and we're in a nice position to check out the Microsoft Loop in public preview. Now, do note that Loop is in public preview, and that means that the experience may still be a little bit flaky every now and again, although overall, I think it's pretty good. Okay, so if you head over to loop.microsoft.com to try it out, the first thing you're going to notice is that the Loop app isn't enabled for your organization. So if you're a user, tune out for the next couple of minutes while we explore how to configure that. And if you're an administrator, the next couple of minutes are probably going to be super valuable for you because we are going to go over how we can enable that for a set of test users or indeed everyone in the business. So I've got a list of steps just here. And step number one is we have to create an Azure AD group that contains the users in your organization that you want to preview Loop with. We then have to go into the Apps Admin Center and create a cloud policy configuration to scope down to the AAD group and enable Loop. We then need to wait an hour or so for the policy to propagate, and then we should be good to go. So let's check out the first part of that. So I have got an Azure AD group here, which I've called Loop App Public Preview. I've given it a description, and I have created it as a security group, and I have made myself a member. Fantastic. If we now head over to config.office.com, where we can set up our cloud policy configuration. If you look down on this left-hand side, you'll see a customization drop-down. You need to click on policy management, and then we need to create a new policy. Once we've created that policy, we need to give it a name. So we're going to call it enable mess loop preview. Enables Microsoft loop for selected users. Script to AD group. Description so that I can remember what I did and why I did it. The scope is going to be applied to a particular users in a group, and we're going to select the group and find Azure AD group we created earlier. Loop at public preview. Click save. Click next. And then we need to filter through all of these policies to ensure that we've got the settings enabled that we need in order to enable Loop for users. So the first one is create and view Loop files in Outlook. So if we look for create and view Loop, so create and view Loop files in Outlook. So click that and then click enabled and apply. And then we've got create and view loop files in Loop. Click that and click enabled. And then create and view loop files in Microsoft apps that support Loop. Now, if you also read the Microsoft guide, it says there are three other settings that you should enable, and this is all to do with them collecting feedback data as part of the public preview. And those are allow users to submit feedback to Microsoft. So, to submit feedback. And then allow users to include screenshots and attachments. To include screenshots, attachments when they submit feedback to Microsoft. Enable that. And then allow users to include log files and content samples. To Microsoft. Enable that. Right. Those should be the 6 policy settings that we need applied. We can see here we've got 6 policy settings enabled. So if we click next, we've got 6 policies configured, the description, the name, the scope, and the group name. So let's hit create just there. It's just take us a couple of seconds to create the policy. We can click done down here and we can now see that it is in place. Now, I tried my luck the first time I ran through this and went to loop.microsoft.com and it didn't work. Try it again. So take a quick break here and pick the video back up once I've given this an hour to synchronize and then take you through Microsoft Loop. Okay, so I've given it sufficient time and we are now back and have access to Microsoft Loop. So if I just go to loop.microsoft.com and let it load, we can see that we have some new activity here. And this, if you're opening it for the first time, is what you'll be presented with, which is the getting started and welcome. Or have a look here on the left-hand side. We have all of our pages that we have created in Loop. Now, it's worth noting that I've only got myself here to test with. I haven't got anyone that I can use on here to help me demonstrate the power of this tool. But essentially, what Loop allows you to do is it allows you to create a workspace where you can effectively collaborate all at the same time. All of the edits and changes are live, and everyone can see what everyone is doing and where everyone is doing it. So if you just run through here, you get a rundown of the commands. So you can type slash to explore content types, at to mention people or link files. You can format text, you can put emojis in. There's lots of different ways that you can edit the various different components and texts, etc., within a document. So if you think of these pages effectively as documents, and we'll go to my test page just here, and what I've done is I have already created a few different bits of content. So this is the title of the page. I've just called it test. This is the cover for the page, and this is the emoji that you can assign. I chose the rocket ship. Um, so yeah, this up here is a loop component that I've created out of a JPEG image and some text. So you can actually save these loop components and then reuse them elsewhere, which is pretty cool in other pages. So if you've got a component that you want to recycle, or a particular table or way of working, something that you know you frequently use or your team frequently uses, you can just create the component once and then just keep on dropping it um, in the various different pages that you create throughout your dashboard. So as we scroll down, we can see here, this is a table, just a very, very basic table, and that's it in its vanilla format. Now, if we actually start exploring these various different columns and rows, we can start pulling them around and moving them. And if we click this drop down just here, we can see that we can change the column type. Now, when we do that, we can see we've got text, number, date. More importantly, we've got person, voting, and label. Now, I'll come on to that in a minute, because there are some other pre-formatted tables that you can also use within Microsoft Loop, and that will demonstrate that a bit better. And you don't have to necessarily create these things from scratch. So this is a voting table. I've called it Team Dinner, and it's just very simple: dinner Friday, dinner Saturday, pros and cons, and then votes. And obviously, if you had more people here, they could vote, and they could vote as you were creating the table live, or help you with filling out the pros and the cons and whatnot. Down here, we've got a progress tracking table, so you can set a priority, for example. These, again, the default column headings, so work area, owner, progress, end date, and blockers. So you've got a little list here that you could add if you had any blockers. You've got a date picker here. If you set the field to type date, you've got progress, and then you've got some automated labels that come up for that. And then assignee will just prompt you to add one of the people within your organization. Here you can see I've just added an assignee here. So if we hit at, we can see that we can assign people, or at mention them, or drop files in. Um, yeah, it's it's a lot, and it's very different. It's a different way of working, but it's a super collaborative way of working. And what it does is it means that if you've got a new project and you want to do a whole load of brainstorming or something like that with your team, or if you're having regular scrum calls and they're taking too much time and you need a way of streamlining those, perhaps you could maybe use a loop component to get everyone to update everything at 9 to 9:15 in the morning, get everybody to put their blockers or their updates in there, and then maybe have just a 5-minute catch up call with the people who had blockers, for example. Or if you were a bunch of designers all working on various different projects, maybe you could use this to collaborate and share ideas. If you're all working on the same client and you want to make sure the branding is consistent, maybe you could do that. If you are some salespeople working on a brochure together, perhaps you could use this to collaborate and start putting in all the different verbiage for the different pages and start putting it all together. The way that I see it is that this is a way of effectively making very quick edits of documents that aren't necessarily polished. They're not going to be like really super refined pieces of work, but they're going to get all the content that you need, all of the valuable stuff, all the stuff that takes you a lot of time to produce, and they're going to get it in the right place very, very quickly where other people can review it and go over it with you in real time. And that's the real power of the tool is the ability to do that. Um, as I said, the other thing that I love is being able to recycle these loop components. So if you're a project manager and you've got a particular way that you like working and you get 3 or 4 different tables set up exactly how you like them and you're running several different projects across a program, you can just set up the pages for all the different projects, give people access, and then bam, 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 drop the tables in that you have created in order to streamline the process. Well, I think that pretty much about concludes our tour. Although, actually, to be fair, the one thing I haven't shown you is the command bar. So if we type slash, you've got various different things. So we can put different column headings in here. We can put a table, checklist, bulleted list, numbered list. And you can see here I've put in a divider as a content type. Then we've got templates. So we've got that voting table I showed you, the progress tracker. We can communicate with the person, put an emoji in there, some labels, etc. So, for example, this is a label here. So again, let's just say we use that and a divider. We could use these to label how far along we'd got with particular sections in the document. I hope this has given you a little bit of an overview of Loop and some of the use cases you might want to use it for. Please do let me know if you found this useful. Maybe drop a comment on the video. If you've got some value out of it, please like it. If you're on YouTube and watching this there, subscribe to it. And if you're on LinkedIn and you're not already, please follow me. It really helps keep me motivated to keep creating content and keep coming back to try and add value to the community. Until the next time, I'll see you all again soon.